Well, hi again, everyone, and welcome again to our Farm Futures Virtual Summit. Today, I am excited to bring you our new guest and one of many keynote speakers that we're going to be having at the summit. I'm Mike Wilson with Farm Futures, Executive Director and Director of Content. And I'd like to bring in Darren Fry. He's the CEO of Water Street Advisory. And Darren's going to be speaking to us at the summit about something called the Great Game of Business. Darren, tell us a little bit about this and why and how did you hear about this?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Mike. I really appreciate it. The Great Game of Business is really how you take your business and turn it into a game. Much like a sporting event, whether you're on a basketball team or a football team, they do best when the players know what plays they're supposed to run, they know what the objectives are, they know their roles, and they know how their part ties to the outcome. And business is like that too. You know, you have employees in business, and a lot of times they don't know how their contribution ties to the bottom line, and they don't know what we're measuring or where the scoreboard is. And so open book management is that thing we call Great Game of Business, where we turn our business into a game, and we share our financials, we share our balance sheet and our P&L, and we help the employees to understand what goes into the profitability. So they really become stakeholders in this, and they participate in helping to reduce expenses, increase revenues, and really support building a better culture for the business.
Well, that's a great overview. I also might want to mention here, Darren has been a longtime blogger for Farm Futures, the Finance First blog. You've seen him at farmfutures.com as well as in the magazine. We want to say thank you for that, Darren, as well as the fact that Darren will be on a grain outlook marketing panel at the summit, where we'll be discussing this big bull market that we're talking about every day, it seems. But for now, let's just talk about, again, this great game of business idea. And of course, I think a lot of the challenges are with family operated and owned businesses. They're generally pretty close to the vest kind of businesses. It's a little bit, people are probably a little reluctant to share that data, but I do know farms that make that work pretty well, and they somehow are able to give the folks that work with them in the business that feeling of skin in the game. And plus, there's much that transparency seems to add to this sense that, well, I understand now why the bonuses might be this much, or they might not be happening at all. Can you speak to that just a little bit?
Yeah, that's right. No, you're exactly right, Mike, about close to the vest. You know, when I decided to do this, we sent one of our employees down to Springfield, Missouri, where this all originated, and we followed their plan and their templates. But, you know, one of the questions I had is you mean I'm going to open up my books, my P&L, my balance sheet to my employees? And there's a lot of anxiety that goes along with that. So if you're a farmer or you're a small business, you got to be thinking the same thing. What we discovered is that how can our employees really perform their best? How do they understand how their part makes a difference in our outcomes? And if they don't know what we're doing and how we're doing it, they assume we're making a lot of money, even if we're not. And so I think some of the things to consider for the farmer really is, you know, hey, it's hard to find good employees. It really is. And I mean, we're in a pretty tight labor situation in this country today, and, you know, out in the rural areas especially. So when you find a good employee, how do you get them to be more of a stakeholder than just an employee? How do you get them to work hard and not waste time and be careful with the equipment, not tear things up, and treat the landlords good when they stop by, and understanding how all that is contributing to the bottom line of the operation? And then, you know, the second point is, you get a good employee, you never want to lose them. So how do you keep that competitive advantage? And I'll be discussing that in my speech there at Farm Future Summit here just in about a month. And along with that, then how do you reward these guys that work for you, or gals that work for you? Because sometimes a bonus only ties to their contribution, might not have anything to do with the profitability of the business. And maybe you get yourself in a situation where every year they expect a bonus. So how do you really share with the employees when the business is doing well, and you want to reward them for their contribution, as they know the numbers and they know what the outcomes are and how they can help make those better? And so I think when you consider some of those things, as a business owner, I open my eyes to say, hey, we've tried it a different way for 25 years, almost 30 years. Why not give this a shot? And we're in our third year of this, and we would never go back to the other way of doing it. It's been tremendous, and our employees know what's going on, and they are excited, and they share in the profit sharing. And man, it's been a great thing for us at Water Street Solutions and Water Street Advisory.
Darren, it feels like this is all about trust and transparency and the whole concept of making the farm more professional in the way it operates as a business. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, it really is. I think when you and I first talked about coming to Farm Futures, we were talking about values and culture and how do you build a better culture. And that's when I shared with you this concept, because what we have found is this transparency builds trust, and that trust builds the culture where we are just really tight with each other. We're honest with each other. People don't ever feel like you're pulling one over on them or saying, hey, we've had a tough year, you can't get a raise. They know if we're having a tough year, and they know if we're having a great year, and there's no hiding it. And so there's just this sense of candor that has really made us closer. So it's helped our culture and really taken our values and the culture to another level. So it's been unbelievable.
Now, Darren, I know we only have a few minutes left, but just in that short time, could you talk a little bit about how this whole great game of business concept ties back to agriculture back in the 80s?
Yeah, well, it starts with International Harvester. They had really tough times coming out of the 70s into the 80s, and they laid off, I think it was like 2,000 employees a week for 52 weeks straight or something like that. And they had all kinds of financial trouble. Well, one of the companies that worked with them was down in Springfield, Missouri. And they started, they were doing the refurbing of engines. And they ended up buying that from International Harvester. They're called Springfield Remanufacturing Company. And they started by having the employees buy that out. And from that, they've created this great game of business. And basically, they own several other companies and are invested in several different other projects. But they have really built a tremendous organization. So much so, they started offering this to other people. Like, hey, come down to Springfield and go through our training and see what we're doing with the great game of business. You might want to try it in your business. And that's how we got introduced to it. So its roots is in ag, and it came clear back from the 80s out of International Harvester. Every farmer would remember that company and kind of what happened to them. So it's been a wonderful thing. But yeah, the roots are in ag, and it kind of fit with where we were in ag as well.
Well, I appreciate this background very much, Darren. Of course, who doesn't enjoy a good game, whether it's baseball or in business? And we really look forward to hearing you talk a little bit more about this at the summit, which will be June 16th and 17th there in Iowa City. And we want to say thank you today. Don't forget, Darren, you can find Darren's columns on farmfutures.com under Finance First and in the magazine. And we want to say thank you to our virtual audience for joining us. And we'll say see you at the summit. And thank you very much.